welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today we're going to be making this peony matchstock box style box. So it's one that you can pull out, and it's quite a big size. It's big enough to fit in some A6 cards with C6 envelopes, but you could also use it for jewellery or for chocolates. There's all sorts of uses for it. It's really pretty. It uses the lovely peony dies. So what we're going to be using today is this Peony Garden suite from the catalogue. So we're going to be using the papers and the dies. These are the dies here, and I'll show you my actual dies. Here we go. These dies over here cut out images from the stamp set that coordinates with it, but these 4 dies here create this peony with this one as the centre. Then you've got 3 leaves and the detail that goes on top, and that creates these leaves. So that's what we're going to be using today. So let's get started. So we're going to start by creating the piece that slides out. So for that I've got a 10" by 8 1/4" inch piece of petal pink cardstock. Now I'm going to score it at 3/4 of an inch and 1 3/4 inches on each side. So then I'm going to cut like a step from each corner. So I'm going to cut up to the first score line. I'm going to cut across that first score line to take that piece out. And then I'm going to cut this square here, so up to the first score line and across the first score line again, so that it creates this step shape in the corner, and I'm going to do that on all of the corners. So then these remaining squares are going to be the flaps that join our box together. So I'm just going to cut up one side of each flap, and it doesn't matter which side it is as long as it's only one on each flap. And then I'm just going to cut a wedge off of each corner like this, and that helps it fold properly. And I'm going to do the same on these flaps at the bottom, just cutting up to the first score line. I'm going to do that on all the sides. So then I'm going to fold all of the score lines inwards. And then this will be one of the ends, and I want to create a hole for the ribbon to go through so that you can pull it out. So I'm just going to fold this flap over, and then I want to put this oval bit of the corner punch, so the triple corner punch, just as centrally as possible. Then I'm going to cut through both pieces of cardstock, so that then you get this nice little oval piece for your ribbon to go through. So we'll do that later. So I'm going to get my trusty tear and tape, and I'm going to put some on each of the flaps. I'm going to put a couple of pieces on each, because they're quite big flaps. Then I'm going to take the cover off of each of the pieces of tape, and I'm just going to join each corner so that the edge lines up neatly with the score line. That will look like that, and then I'm going to go around and put some more tear and tape just on the inside of each of these flaps. And then on this end bit, you just want to make sure that you don't put any over the oval, so I'm putting mine really close to the edge. You can see like that. So then I'm going to take them off and just fold the flaps down, and that makes the box a lot more strong. It just reinforces the sides of it. So there we go, so there's our base with our little hole. So we're just going to tie a bit of ribbon in. So I've got this gorgeous grey granite shimmer ribbon, which is part of that Peony suite. And I'm just going to cut the end at an angle. I only need a small piece because I'm just going to tighten a knot so that you've got something to pull the box out with. So you can see then someone can use that to pull the box in and out. So for the first box I made, I used this floral piece of paper from the Peony DSP, and this time I'm going to use this piece that's got like kind of zigzags on it, and this piece measures 12 inches by 6.5 inches. So I'm just going to bring my scoreboard back in. I'm going to put the paper like this. I'm going to put the box roughly in the centre, and then I'm just going to score down the closest score line on each side of the box so that I know that the cover's going to fit it nicely. And then I'm going to score 1 inch along from that score mark. And then I can use that just to create the outer lining for the box. Then that will go like that. I'm going to use the box as a guide just to glue it round. So I'm going to put some tape along the inside of this edge. Now I'm just going to take that off. I'm going to fold it around the box and then tape it together. So then you can see the outer layer fits nicely around the edge with some room just to pull it out. So now we're going to create the decorations for the top of the box. So I've used these dies that I showed you earlier, and I've cut out one of each of the peony pieces. And the good thing about these dies is that you only need one of each piece, so you can actually put them all through in one pass. And then I've just got a base piece and a detail piece for each. So I've used petal pink for the flower, and then these pieces are Old Olive and these pieces are Mossy Meadow, and then I've just cut the flower centre in basic grey. So to add a bit of dimension to our flower, I'm just going to add a little bit of petal pink ink. I'm going to use one of these sponge daubers. And I'm just going to put a little bit of ink at the bottom, and then also just along this crease here on each of the pieces. And it doesn't matter if it's a little bit messy, because they're all going to go together and it'll look more organic when it all goes together. I'm just going to add a little bit more to this because it seems to have gone all in one place. There we go. So these dies are really pretty special. They've all got this little piece inside that opens so that you can put them one inside the other, and that makes them really special because you get a really nice 3D flower. I've actually never seen dies that are like this before. They're really unique. So I'm just going to add a bit of glue just onto the back of my centre. I'm going to pop that into the middle of here, and then I like to go from smallest to largest, so you pop each one inside the other, and it's actually really easy to line them up. I'm just going to put a bit of glue on here, because when you pop them inside, the bottom actually lines up. So you can see the bottom of this one matches that one, so you can see exactly where to line them up. So I'm just going to put a bit on the bottom of here, and then I'll put this one inside here. And again, I'm just going to line up those bottom pieces. You can see I'm just slightly flexing the flower as I put it together, just to give it that added bit of dimension. I'm just going to put some more on here. And again, I'm just going to line up those lines on the bottom. And you can see you've got a foolproof way of getting a really nice 3D type of peony. So then I'm just going to put the leaves together. So I'm just going to add a bit of glue onto the back of each of the detail pieces and put them on top of the leaves that they coordinate with. You can tell which they coordinate with because they're each slightly different shape. So you can see, for example, this one's only got one ridge on this side, whereas this one's got a couple, so that one goes with this one. And then we just want to do the sentiment. So I wanted a happy birthday sentiment, and the coordinating stamp set with this doesn't have a happy birthday sentiment in it. So I've decided to use the one from this Best Year stamp set, this Happy Birthday to You, which I think is really pretty. I actually use this set all the time. It's really useful for a lot of different celebrations. So I've got that stamp mounted on here, and I'm going to heat emboss it in white. So I'm just going to use my embossing buddy, and I'm going to just run that over a scrap piece of basic grey cardstock. And the reason that you do that is to stop the embossing powder getting in places that you don't want it. And then I'm going to take my Versamark ink, which is a special embossing ink, and I'm going to just ink that up, stamp it on here. Then I'm going to pour a bit of the white embossing powder on, and then I can pour the rest back into the pot. Isn't very successful, I just missed that bit there. So then please excuse the noise, but I'm going to use my heat tool just to heat that up and set it. You should be able to see the embossing powder starting to melt now. So we've got a nice sentiment, so I'm just going to use the stitch rectangle to cut this out on my die cutting machine, and I'll come back. So here we go with our sentiment and the peony and the leaves. So now all that's left to do is stick these onto our box. So I'm just going to arrange them first and then I'll stick them after. So I'm just going to use some of my glue to stick that down. Just going to take the box out. It's easy to stick it while it's flat. So that's our project finished. We can just put that back in. Now bring in the initial one. So we've got this one that we started with, and this is the one that we just made. So I hope you enjoyed today's project. If you did, please click like below, and I'd love it if you subscribe to see future projects if you've not done so already. All of the products that we've used today are linked in the description below. There's also a link to my blog which will have the dimensions on it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.